The next performer we have up is the very funny. I'm sorry, David. I'm just going to tell everyone this. His name is David Balutanski, but let me just tell you that when I met him, he went by the name Bang. And I can't stop saying Bang.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Bang. Yeah. People are like, "Did you get that name because you banged a lot of girls?" Yeah, that's it. Who would have that nickname and try to keep it going? Yeah. I was really into heavy metal. I was a headbanger. And when I was 15, my friends started calling me the headbanger. And then it just kind of morphed into Bang. I was into Maiden and Priest, Sabbath. But I went to an all-boys Catholic school and I had to wear a tie, so I didn't really have long hair or any of the accoutrement that really goes with headbanging. I'm going to tell some firsts about, I guess the theme would be prostitution. That would be the tie-in for all the stories involved. Like a lot of good prostitution stories, this one starts with Planet Hollywood, where I worked. I've worked at Chili's. I've worked at TGI Fridays. I've worked at Planet Hollywood. I worked at Hooters. Thank you, Jim. I was a fry cook at Hooters in the summer of '89. That's a lot of good stories there. People are like, "Did you get laid with the girls?" Oh yeah, that's what the Hooter waitresses want. You know, 17-year-old Dave back there washing dishes at the Hobart, covered in wing sauce, smelly high tops. Yeah, and my mom's picking me up after work. Yeah. Candy was all over me. I was doing the morning shift, and Planet Hollywood's just sad. You show up in the morning, and there's people already lined up behind a velvet rope, like, you know, from Wisconsin and Iowa, and this is like their big trip to Chicago, and they're in line to get a $13 cheeseburger and a Coke, and they're waiting there for like 2 hours just to come in, and yeah, that's sad. So I'm rounding the corner, about to head on to Wells Street, where the Planet Hollywood is. And as I round the corner, I lock eyes with this woman. She's in her 40s, black woman, and she's leaning up against the wall. Kind of James Dean style, I call it. She had one leg up. She had a toothpick. And she's wearing a purple tracksuit. And we kind of lock eyes for a second, and without skipping a beat, she looks right at me and goes, "How'd you like to start your morning off with a blowjob?" No thanks. My little backpack. That was my first time being propositioned by a prostitute. You know, I thought about that all day, and I've thought about it since then. I admire the moxie, you know? What a cool customer. I mean, I get embarrassed or shy about asking someone on the street for directions, you know? She's asking someone to put their penis in her mouth, and she's just like, "No problem." She should, you know, she'd be great in sales. So, Chicago, Planet Hollywood, okay, that's the first prostitute. I moved into an apartment with my buddy Jeff, and kind of new to Chicago, so I'm not really accustomed to the weather yet. I guess I think I'm tougher than I am, maybe, or I don't grasp how cold it is. That's really what I'm trying to say. So I'm like, well, I don't know the neighborhood that well. I think there's a Dominic's somewhere over there. It ends up being like 20 blocks, but I'm gonna tough it out and walk. Load up on these groceries. I'm coming back from the Dominic's, and I'm noticing no one is on the street. This is like January. And I'm starting to like turn red, And then this cab pulls up, and this guy yells at me, "Get in my cab." So I get in, and he's like, "What are you doing out there? What's wrong with you?" He goes, "Don't you know that the hawk is out?" And I talked to some, years later, I learned from some old timers in Chicago that that's what a lot of people that from Chicago call the wind. It's the hawk, because it swoops down and rips your face off. So he's this old cabbie. "The hawk's out! The hawk's out!" It's like, years later, phone rings. It's my buddy, one of my buddies I grew up with in Louisville, and he is stuck at the airport. He's going to have to sleep at the airport, high school buddy. Come and get me. So, all right. I borrow my old girlfriend's car, a gray Toyota Camry, 87. The car was called Fifi by her. I don't know why girls name their cars sometimes. This was Fifi. The hawk was out that night, people. The hawk was out. This is a blizzard. It's about 10, 15 below night, horizontal snow. So I'm going about 10 miles per hour. Can barely see. It's freezing. The wind is kind of moving the car, which is always scary when you're getting blown around. And I pass a bus stop, and there's a girl waiting for the bus. Minus 10 degrees. And I'm shocked that someone is outside. So I drive a little further, and I keep thinking about this girl, and I always have a soft spot for people on the side of the road for some reason. I don't know. On family trips, you ever pass that like one or two people like walking on the expressway? And as a kid, I was always like, oh shit, that sucks. Walking on the interstate. So I'm like, man, I gotta do something. I gotta go back there and just give this person a ride. Why the hell are they waiting for the bus 10 below zero? I don't even know if the buses are running. Do a U-turn, come around. I pull up to the bus stop, I roll down the passenger side window, and I yell, "Get in here!" Much like the cabbie, the kind-hearted cabbie that yelled at me. So she gets in, and I'm like, "What are you doing out there? Like, it's freezing. I know that bus that runs on Archer. Where do you need to go? I'll take you wherever you want to go." She goes, "I'm going wherever you're going." I'm like, what? "I'm going to the airport to pick up my friend Dave. Where do you want to go? I'll take you wherever the bus was going to take you." And cars start honking, so I start to drive, and she's just sitting there in silence, and I'm like, "Well, where do you want to go?" And she goes, "Just take me back to the bus stop." I'm like, "What? I'm gonna take you wherever you want to go. Just tell me where you want to go." She's like, "Just take me back to the bus stop." And I go, "Oh, okay." So I drive a little further, and there's waiting for a chance to do a U-turn. And we're sitting there, and the snow's coming down, and the heater's blasting, and there's no radio. We're just both kind of sitting there, and she goes, "You don't get it, do you?" And I look down, and I see it's kind of a mini skirt she's wearing, and a pretty light jacket, and some boots. And I was like, oh, okay. And then did the U-turn, brought her back, and she opened the door, and then she kind of did "Are you positive?" And I was like, "Yeah, sorry." And she got out and closed the door, and I drove off, and I went to the airport, and I picked up my friend Dave, and on my way back, I stopped and looked to see if she was still there, and she was gone. That's the end of my story.